In this special edition of Artifacts, go behind the scenes with a first-time filmmaker.
Because of the nature of my job, I learn about things at work that I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool screenplay.
Poetry that speaks to the human condition.
You can find poetry really all around you. Poetry, I think, is in all of the little moments that you experience in life.
Celebrating a groundbreaking architect through photography.
Paul Revere Williams put his ego aside to navigate through racial barriers to give everyone of every socioeconomic class the comfort of a home.
And hear from the artists involved in these award-earning segments.
Just making that film and having so many talented people be part of it was such a cool experience anyway. And then having Artifacts come in was really, really fulfilling. And then when it won an award, so it's just like layers upon layers of amazingness.
It's all ahead on this special edition of Artifacts.
Funding for Artifacts is made possible by Sandy Raffelli with Bill Pierce Motors, Meg and Dillard Myers, Heidi Marie Rockland, in memory of Sue McDowell, and by the annual contributions of PBS Reno members.
Hello, I'm Beth Macmillan, and welcome to this special edition of Artifacts. In this episode, we take a look at the Artifacts segments that earned Communicator and Telly Awards in 2023. First up is a segment featuring new filmmaker Jackie Shelton. Jackie used her background as a communications professional to write and direct her first fictional short film in 2021. The Artifacts team explored her process, earning this segment a Communicator Award of Distinction. Produced by Szillat.
My short film is called Lost in Memories, and it's about an older couple who are reminiscing about their lifetime love affair, so it's a romance for them. But then we see through the eyes of their adult children that they've only been together a few years and they both actually have dementia. And so the romance is kind of bittersweet. This is the first film I've ever made. I got interested in script writing in 2017. My daughter was going through some things and I was having a hard time understanding what she was going through, and so I wrote a screenplay to address it and really, really enjoyed that process. And so did nothing with that screenplay because she asked me not to, but then I started writing movies. And I realized that writing short movies is really fun and you can actually make short movies. You know, obviously a feature-length film takes a lot more money than I have. So, yeah, so I decided to make this one. I've been in professional communications for my entire career. What I was doing before is I was telling other people's true stories. My background's in journalism. And so this is the same thing, except for I get to make up the stories. Once I started telling people that I was writing screenplays, everybody said, you have to meet Emily Skyle. And Emily Skyle, who's the executive director of Cordillera International Film Festival and also a movie maker, took me under her wing and came in as producer and then taught me how to direct.
It's definitely a different world to try to break into, making the transition from writing into actually directing or producing a project. When I began working with her as a writer for screenplays, it was really amazing. She's collaborative, she takes notes and fights for what she wants to keep in the script, understands what she needs to release in the script. And eventually we came up with Lost in Memories, or she came up with Lost in Memories, and I thought it had legs, and I thought it would be the perfect time for her to step from writing up to directing and watching her words come to life and helping being part of that process.
Oh, that works. Because of the nature of my job, I learn about things at work that I'm like, oh, that'd be a cool screenplay. It's fiction, so I get to make up the stories, but we still have to be accurate. Like in this movie, it's living with Alzheimer's, not suffering from Alzheimer's. In the movie at the beginning, the father and the mother are looking at photos and reminiscing, and the mother asks the son, you know, look at this photo of you and your dad. And you think it's the man who she's sitting next to, and he's very indignantly lets her know that, you know, he loves his dad and that's not his dad. And that's where you kind of realize that all is not as it seems.
This is when Dad taught me how to fish.
Yes, he did. You two were inseparable that summer.
Those are some of my favorite memories. Of Dad.
The overall message is that if somebody you love, if their reality is skewed, that you have to lean in and go along with what they think, as long as nobody's getting hurt and as long as everybody's safe, because there's no point in fighting with them. And obviously that sounds really logical unless you're actually in it and you're dealing with the fact that your mother does not remember maybe who you are.
This was such a fun show, wasn't it, love?
The costumes were amazing. Some of the actors looked like animals. What was your favorite? I think the giraffes.
When it comes to arcs and messaging within a story, it's really important to focus on what your fundamental message is. And for a film like Dementia, which is what Lost in Memories covers, what are you trying to get across by the time someone is done? If someone's giving you their time, what point do you want to make? And that's for a message-driven film. When it comes to an arc, that's a particular journey that a character may take throughout the film. When you look at Lost in Memories, one of the best examples of a character arc would be when the main character, played beautifully by Aaron Foster, is when his character comes to terms with the fact that although his mother has forgotten his father existed, that his father does still exist in his heart, and maybe the best thing to do is just acquiesce and let her have her current joy and not fight against it. And when Aaron makes that decision, it's a really powerful 15 to 30-second moment, and that's where you get to see the power of an actor, and you just watch that amazing transformation take place. And then he walks over and sits down. So his journey is that realization, and it's a picture-perfect textbook example of an arc.
Nashville?
Yep. Did I ever tell you about the time I almost had to sing Folsom Prison Blues?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. You did.
I think one of the things that was really motivating to get involved with the project and Lost in Memories, outside of just getting to work with Jackie, was the powerful message behind the film. And I am super excited to see the impact that it has and the ability it will have to shine a light on a topic that might be difficult to start a conversation about, but might motivate a lot of conversations and thought.
I am in my 50s and decided to try a completely new thing, which has been incredibly empowering. And it's really kind of awesome finding out all the things you don't know how to do and realizing how many things there are in the world to learn how to do. It was really amazing being part of ARTEFFECTS. Just making that film and having so many talented people be part of it was such a cool experience anyway. And then having ARTEFFECTS come in and having Martine come in and get the footage on the day of the screening was really, really fulfilling. And then when it won an award, so it's just like layers upon layers of amazingness. The film got selected for 4 or 5 different film festivals. We attended 2. And seeing it on the big screen and watching my words come out of actors' mouths on the big screen was phenomenal. And again, I cried every time. I cried when I was writing it, I cried when we were filming it, and I've cried every single time I've watched it. When the segment first came out, and it was so much fun to watch that, and then when it won the award, I went back and watched it again and got to relive how fun that experience was. Because you're already on a movie set, which is like nothing else, and then you bring in Martine and his team and doing their interviews and their shots, and it just really amplified the entire experience. And then when I saw the finished product, it was, you know, it was really great.
The film featured in the segment, Lost in Memories, is now finished. You can watch it on Jackie's website, sheltonhallproductions.com. The next award-earning segment features one of Reno's poet laureates, Dustin Howard. Dustin believes that anyone can write poetry and that doing so can help one better understand themselves and their experiences throughout life. Dustin's words and the artistic visual representations of his poetry earned this segment a Silver Telly Award and a Communicator Award of Distinction, produced by Guinivere Clark and Enrique Sandoval.
My name is Dustin Howard, and I am the current City of Reno Poet Laureate. A Poet Laureate is an honorary representative for poetry and the arts in a community, usually appointed by a governing body, in my case, the City of Reno. My role as Poet Laureate is to be an ambassador for poetry and the arts in our community. I got into poetry when I was in high school. My freshman and sophomore English teachers both did units on poetry, and it was something I took to immediately. Poetry was something that I used to kind of explore myself and kind of the world around me, especially in my first collection of poems. That was the running theme. It was deliberately an exploration of memories, starting with the earliest memory that I had, going way back to when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And then it charts, the progression of my growth kind of into adulthood and sort of that journey hitting specific beats and kind of important memories. That was a very sort of cathartic experience, getting to kind of relive and work back through some of those emotional traumas and some of those, moments of really pure joy. Poetry is one of the few mediums that allows an artist like that to connect on a very deep, personal, sort of reflective level. Summer, 1999. 7 years old and not a care in the passenger seat of Mom's red sedan. A Ford, I think, or maybe a Chevy. In the back seat, my siblings, 3 and 5. Where are we going? Nowhere. On the radio, the sounds of summer. Mambo number 5 seems to play on repeat. It's catchy, and we sing along. Around town running errands, we visit the grocery store, the gas station, and the bank. We stop for lunch, then run some more. Where are we going? Somewhere. On the radio, the sounds of summer. I don't know what a scrub is, but I know TLC don't want one. I sit in the car with my siblings, a coloring book of the Phantom Menace in my lap, and Jar Jar fruit snacks. I think I want to be a Jedi. Where are we going? Anywhere. On the radio, the sounds of summer. The Latin flair of Carlos Santana is smooth, hotter than that summer sun. It's time to go back to our father. She drops us off and says goodbye. It's dusk and cool, and I miss the car. Going nowhere, somewhere, anywhere. On the radio, the sounds of summer. The auto-tuned techno-pop of Cher trying to believe in life after love. Grown up now and too many cares to list, I wonder about her that summer, all alone in her red sedan, driving to one of 3 jobs, to make ends meet, to fight for us as the struggle for custody continued. On the radio, the sounds of summer. Did they cut through the quiet in the car? Does she remember them as fondly as me? You can find poetry really all around you, not just in poetry books. Poetry is music. Poetry is in art. Poetry, I think, most importantly, is in all of the little moments that you experience in life. It's those small things that bring you joy. It's the quiet stillness by the lake. It's the rush of traffic as you're standing on the street corner. Poetry is everywhere. poetry is really just capturing those very human moments where we're reflective and kind of contemplating ourselves and our place. It's really kind of all around us. I always think of John Keats' poem, Bright Star, Where I Steadfast as Thou Art, in which the speaker of the poem has his head rested on the chest of his lover, and he just wants to stay kind of in that moment for forever. Here we have somebody writing 200 years ago about what is a very real and human emotion that we as readers still connect with. The power of poetry really is the ability to bridge that gap between space and time, and to know that someone somewhere hundreds of years ago felt exactly the same way I might feel now. There's an opportunity for readers to connect in some big or small way with the words you've put on the page, and to know that my work might be making some small difference in a person's life is immensely rewarding for me. It's kind of like an open letter to the reader. It's a letter not for me, but for someone, somewhere, someday, to open and find themselves in the words and on the page. Being a part of ARTEFFECTS was really a tremendously rewarding experience, not only getting to work with the fantastic crew at PBS Reno, but also being able to share my story and my inspirations as a poet with the community and with the wider world was just immensely satisfactory. After the segment aired, and particularly after it got picked up for wider broadcast, I did actually notice a bump in book sales on my poetry book, which was really super cool. We did the interview, but then we did some filming outside to bring the poems to life. And that was so much fun to get to do different locations around Reno, and just to be able to have a hand in telling those stories in a different way and bringing those stories to life off the page was just so gratifying. It was such an awesome and rewarding experience, and so thankful to have had the opportunity to be a part of the ARTEFFECTS segment.
There's more to the story available online, including 2 additional poems by Dustin. You can find it at youtube.com/@PBSReno. Learn more about Dustin at dthbooks.com. Our last award-earning segment dives into the work behind groundbreaking architect Paul Revere Williams. His work was photographed by artist Janna and exhibited at the Nevada Museum of Art in 2022. ARTEFFECTS documentation of the whole story earned this segment a Bronze Telly Award and a Communicator Award of Distinction. Produced by Rebecca Cronon.
Paul Revere Williams designed structures that everyone uses throughout their daily lives.
He goes beyond designing wonderful structures. He goes into designing communities.
The thing about his body of work is this extreme attention to detail. The quality is consistent.
Williams was really a master, not just at giving his clients everything that they wanted, but specifically tailoring his design so beautifully, whether that was a mansion in Beverly Hills or a ranch house in Nevada.
He put his ego aside to navigate through racial barriers to give everyone of every socioeconomic class the comfort of a home. I feel that every Nevadan should realize that Paul Revere Williams was a genius that stands the test of time. Paul Revere Williams was born in 1894 in Los Angeles, California. In 1919, he graduated from USC with an architectural engineering degree, becoming the first African American graduate of the university. In 1923, he joined the American Institute of Architects, becoming the first African American member of that institute. Some of the designs that he focused on are Mediterranean, Spanish, colonial, neoclassical, and after World War II, he focused more on mid-century modern. I'm Carmen Bills, and I am the curator of the exhibition Janna, Ireland on the Architectural Legacy of Paul Revere Williams in Nevada. You will be able to understand the rich history of designs by Mr. Paul Revere Williams, and you will be able to see it through a unique lens of contemporary art developed by artist and educator Janna, Ireland.
A lot of my work is about people, whether that is human relationships or the built environment that people create for themselves.
She has this beautiful, profound way of capturing a linear design, something that's very signature of his piece, such as a curve or a window that has natural light beaming into a specific facility, followed by this gorgeous shadow that creates a rich moodiness.
For the exhibition, I came back to Las Vegas. I also visited Reno and some small cities outside of Reno.
Janna and I had the fabulous opportunity to visit each of these sites together.
For me, it was this really exciting opportunity to do this new body of work, to meet these new people, to learn about and really study another person who I wouldn't have thought to look into on my own, and to learn a lot about the field of architecture.
Paul Revere Williams began working in Nevada with his first project in 1934, which was a commission by Miss Luella Garvey.
Carmen and I showed up hoping to photograph the outside, and then we met someone who introduced us to someone else, and we were able to just photograph it on the spot, which is one of the wonderful surprises of working on this project.
Some of the characteristics of the Garvey residence include ironwork in its exterior. It has the beautiful signature staircases that Paul Revere Williams is known for. It has many large windows to capture the natural lighting, and it is a wonderful L-shaped property that is made in a colonial revival style.
I am very drawn to shadow. I'm drawn to the way light comes through a particular window at a particular time of day. I'm drawn to the way that the corners of a room might come together, or to things like the place between two rooms where you can see the flooring change from one kind to another. Just the seams of it, I think, are what I keep looking at.
It's only by learning more about the incredible architecture of Williams in Nevada that we can gain more appreciation for that architecture, for its beauty, and for the momentous life of Paul Revere Williams and everything that he can teach us.
If you think about it, a lot of the designs that he has, they were so superior that they are still standing today, and we are still talking about them right now.
I hope that people see this as just kind of the tip of the iceberg, that it is a little tiny introduction to this enormous body of work that Paul Williams put out in his lifetime. I also hope that people understand it as my interpretation of the work, and that they realize that if they visited these spaces, they would see completely different things and have a completely different experience of the work.
Hi, this is Janna, Ireland. When I began photographing structures designed by Paul Revere Williams in Los Angeles in 2016, I had no way of knowing that the work I was doing would lead to a book, to a relationship with the Nevada Museum of Art and an exploration of Williams's work in the state of Nevada, or to this PBS special that you are watching right now. The response to the work that I've done has been tremendous. I've been incredibly fortunate to be afforded so many opportunities to show my work, to talk about my work, and to talk about Williams and his impact on the field of architecture. Thank you so much for watching.
There's more to the story that you just watched. You can see the full segment online at youtube.com/@PBSReno. And that wraps it up for this special edition of Artifacts. If you want to watch new Artifact segments early, make sure to subscribe to the PBS Reno YouTube channel. And don't forget to keep visiting pbsreno.org for complete episodes. Until next week, I'm Beth Macmillan. Thanks for watching.
Funding for Artifacts is made possible by Sandy Raffelli with Bill Pierce Motors, Meg and Dillard Myers, Heidi Marie Rockland, in memory of Sue McDowell, and by the annual contributions of PBS Reno members.